Imagine this. You just got the call. You landed the promotion. Your salary just jumped from $50,000 to a staggering $200,000 a year. You're ecstatic. You do the math in your head. That's 4 times the money. I'm going to be rich. The stress is over. I can finally breathe. Fast forward 6 months, you're sitting at your kitchen table, looking at your banking app, and you feel that same pit in your stomach you had 3 years ago. You're wondering if you can afford the good sushi tonight. You're stressed about the car payment. You're looking at your savings account and realizing it hasn't actually grown. You make 4 times what you used to, but your life feels exactly the same. Your stress levels are identical. Your freedom is nowhere to be found. My name's Jimmy, and I spend way too much time thinking about how we interact with our money. If you're someone who feels like you're running faster and faster on a financial treadmill but staying in the exact same spot, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because here's the thing, the 6-figure dream is often a mathematical hallucination. Today, we're going to break down the brutal math and the even more brutal psychology of why a $200,000 salary can feel, mechanically and emotionally, exactly like $50,000. And look, I know what some of you are thinking. Jimmy, I'd love to have that problem. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll realize that if you don't fix the underlying system, the number on your paycheck is just a bigger shovel for a bigger hole.
Let's start with the cold, hard numbers. This is where most people get tripped up before they even see their first paycheck. When you make $50,000, you're in a relatively modest tax bracket. In many states, after federal taxes, FICA, and maybe a small state tax, you're taking home roughly $40,000. That's about $3,333 a month. Now, look at the $200,000 earner. You might think, okay, $200K divided by 12, that's $16,666 a month. I'm a king. Wrong. This is where it gets really interesting. As you climb the income ladder, the government becomes your most expensive roommate. At $200,000, you're hitting the 32% or 35% federal brackets. You're likely maxing out Social Security contributions early, but your overall effective tax rate skyrockets. If you live in a high-tax state like California or New York, you might be looking at a total tax hit of 35% to 40%. Your $16,600 paper income shrinks to roughly $10,000 or $11,000 in take-home pay. Now, don't get me wrong, $11K is more than $3.3K. But here's what most people don't realize. Your fixed costs don't just stay the same when you move up. They scale aggressively, and they scale in ways that are often invisible. Let's talk about lifestyle creep. We've all heard the term, but we think we're immune to it. We're not. When you make $50K, you live in a $1,200 apartment. You drive a 2014 Honda Civic that's paid off. You buy the generic cereal. But when you hit $200K, you feel like you deserve the upgrade. You move into the $3,500 luxury apartment or buy the $800,000 house because it's an investment. You trade the Civic for a $900 a month Audi lease because I need to look the part for my clients. Suddenly, your required cost of existence has quadrupled along with your income. The $50K earner spends $3,000 on essentials and has $333 left over, 10% margin. The $200K earner spends $10,000 on new essentials, nicer house, car, private school, organic everything, and has $1,000 left over, 9% margin. Mathematically, the $200K earner is actually more fragile. If the $50K earner loses his job, he needs $3K to survive. If the $200K earner loses his, they need $10K a month just to keep the lights on and the Audi in the driveway. This is why you feel the same. Your margin of safety hasn't grown. Only your overhead has.
Now, you might be thinking, Jimmy, I just keep my $50K lifestyle while making $200K. I hate to break it to you, but your brain is wired to prevent that. There's a psychological phenomenon called hedonic adaptation. Basically, humans are incredibly good at turning luxuries into necessities in about 3 weeks. That first week in the heated leather seats of your new car, pure bliss. By week 4, it's just a seat. But if you had to go back to the 2014 Civic, it would feel like a tragedy. We don't get happier as we spend more. We just get more used to things. This creates a keeping up with the Joneses effect that is actually worse at 200K. At 50K, your friends are likely in the same boat. You go to happy hour. At 200K, your peers are going to $200 omakase dinners and taking $10,000 ski trips. The social pressure to maintain the appearance of 200K is a tax that doesn't show up on your W-2, but it drains your bank account just the same. Here is a point that most financial gurus completely ignore: the cost of earning $200,000. Usually, you don't get a 400% raises for doing the same amount of work. A 200K salary usually comes with higher stakes, longer hours, and more stress. When you're exhausted from a 60-hour work week, you start buying back your time. You don't cook, you Uber Eats, $40 versus $10. You don't clean your house, you hire a service, $200 a week. You don't fly economy, you pay for the upgrade because I need the rest. These aren't just splurges, they feel like survival mechanisms. You are literally spending the extra money you earn just to cope with the stress of earning it. It's a closed-loop system where the only winner is the person selling you the convenience. This is where it gets really dangerous. When you make 50K, you know you're on the edge. You're careful because you have to be. When you make 200K, you feel wealthy, so you stop tracking. You experience death by 1,000 subscriptions. You say yes to the $200 wedding gift, the $150 brunch, and the $80 workout class without thinking. But if you look at the statistics, the personal savings rate in the U.S. doesn't magically jump as income increases. In fact, a shocking number of households earning over $150,000 plus are still living paycheck to paycheck. Why? Because they focused on income instead of net worth. Income is what you show the world. Net worth is what stays when the world stops looking. If your income goes up and your net worth stays flat, you aren't getting richer. You're just a higher volume pass-through for the bank's money.
So how do we fix this? How do we make sure that a raise actually feels like a raise? You have to implement what I call the 50% rule of progress. Here's the plan. Every time you get a raise, a bonus, or a new job with a higher salary, you are only allowed to live on 50% of the after-tax increase. If your take-home pay increases by $4,000 a month, $2,000 goes directly into your lifestyle. Go ahead, get the better apartment, eat the nicer steak, enjoy it. $2,000 goes directly into investments or debt payoff, automatically, before it even touches your checking account. By doing this, you are guaranteed 2 things. Your quality of life actually improves, so you don't feel deprived, and your wealth scales faster than your bills. This is the only way to break the treadmill. You have to be intentional because the default setting of the modern economy is to bleed you dry, no matter how much you make. Now, some of you are saying, Jimmy, you're being dramatic. Having 200K is objectively better than 50K. And you're right, it is. But only if you use it as a tool. If you use 200K to buy more stuff that requires more work to maintain, you haven't bought freedom. You've just bought a more expensive cage. The cage has better wallpaper and a nicer view, but the door is still locked. The goal isn't to make $200,000. The goal is to keep enough of it so that you eventually don't have to make $200,000. Look, money is a magnifying glass. If you have bad habits at 50K, you will have catastrophic habits at 200K. The numbers just get bigger, but the patterns stay the same. If you want to actually feel wealthy, you have to stop focusing on the top line and start obsessing over the bottom line, your margin. Because at the end of the day, a person making $70K who saves $15K is wealthier and more free than the person making $250K who saves nothing. Stop running on the treadmill. Start building the floor. If this video made you rethink your next upgrade, do me a favor, leave a comment below. Are you caught in the lifestyle creep trap? What's one necessity you realized is actually a luxury? I read as many as I can. I'll see you in the next one.